So let's.
Okay.
Okay, Frank, you're good to go.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the December 19th meeting of Scituate Conservation Commission. A couple quick things to read. This meeting's being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20, the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with our open meeting law. The town of Scituate has a commitment statement to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. Okay, do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Frank, Bunny Lane.
Yes.
Frank,
Yeah.
what's Bunny Lane? I had CFC. I was gonna add Frank.
That's the one.
Oh, okay.
So a CFC for Bunny Lane. And I might, if I have 2 minutes, just let you know where we are with signs and parking and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yay. So I'll make a motion. We accept the agenda with those two possible add-ons.
Thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the first on the agenda is 54 Oceanside Drive. Oh yeah, we want to get a vote to accept the agenda. Thanks, Jen.
I'll second that, Andy.
So who made the motion?
I did.
Penny.
And Andy seconded.
And Andy seconded. All in favor? Richard?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
And Brendan's not here. Frank, yes. Great. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks for straightening me out here. Okay. 54 Oceanside. We have someone from Stenbeck and Taylor.
Yeah, I just unmuted Rick.
Yes, Rick Savant, I'm here.
Hi,
Good
Rick.
evening.
Yeah, so we just left off on 54 Oceanside. I think we'd gotten through the full presentation and just the commission was just going to go out and take a quick look at the site because there were some walls and we were pretty ready to hopefully close in on this project.
Sure.
If you want to add anything, Rick.
That's what I recall. I reviewed the project thoroughly, and you, at least Frank and maybe some other members, were going to take a ride out there and look at the site.
Correct. Yeah. So do you have anything else you want to add after last meeting?
No real new information. The homeowner, I believe, Dean Blagett, is on tonight. He wasn't able to be around last time, but he's on board and willing to work with the commission however we can to help this along.
Okay, and I did get, he expressed that concern or to work with us as well. So we appreciate that. And then I think we received some pictures from an abutter and a letter. See if I can find that real quick.
Elevated deck.
Was there a letter or was it just photos?
There were photos, Frank.
Okay. So we received some photos of the seawall and the area around that, the condition of the seawall. So I did have a chance to go out and look at the site, and it it is good to get out once in a while and take a look. Jen, can you pull up that? So when you look at this plan from Oceanside going in, there's a retaining wall that's on the left that's owned by the neighbor. And then that turns south and ties into the foundation of the existing home. And then on the other side, there's a stone or concrete stone wall that also connects to the foundation on the applicant's house. And if you look at the elevation, the elevation of the stone on the upper part towards the seawall is probably almost 4 foot higher than it is in that parking area. The whole front of this house is paved.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so there's almost a 4 foot difference in material between that elevation down at the street and then the upper area. And the concern I had talking to Amy is when this house is removed, all that material, including the material of both the abutters, has a high likelihood of being sucked into this void and out onto the street, as was brought up at the meeting the other night. So my question to Amy was, can we allow the applicant to build some sort of retaining piece across that between those two walls, either would it be poured concrete or whether it would be large stones, some sort of material. And we have done that in the past. We've allowed in situations where a lot of materials held back by the foundation, there's a patio or whatever, we've allowed part of that to remain. And I think we could condition that if the engineers come up with some sort of proposal for that. So that's one piece of it. And then the other part is the patio on the other side. We get a lot of feedback from FEMA, CZM, DEP, all these places that they don't want a hard surface on the inside of the stone wall, because the idea is when the water overtops the seawall, it hits that surface and then it only speeds up.
Yeah.
Because the reverse is, if you remove it, then it's going to toss all the stones around and cause some erosion and possibly have an adverse effect on that seawall, which is not in great shape. No. So I'm a little bit undecided, I guess, whether they're better off with a portion of that patio to either remain or to come up with some other alternative there that might help stabilize that a little bit. And what I did notice on both sides of the house were that there were fairly large chunks of concrete, like they had utilized an old broken foundation to almost make a walkway around this house. It was like the foundation walls were laying flat on the ground in sort of jagged pieces, and they created things maybe 5 foot by 6 foot that you could step along. And I don't know what the plans were for those. If the engineer or owner can let us know what they're thinking there.
So good evening, everyone. This is Dean Blodgett speaking. Can you all hear me?
We can, Dean, sure.
So first off, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. With regard to the flat stones there, we purchased the house in August, and we'd be open to whatever the Conservation Commission thinks is appropriate to do with those. There was no particular intent on doing anything with that, but if taking those away and replacing those with crushed stone or something else would be helpful, we're very open to that.
I don't see a problem with them remaining. I don't think they're loose and they're big enough to stay there.
Are they kind of set in now, Frank?
They're flush with the cobble.
Oh, okay.
So they're obviously very heavy.
Yeah.
stone, but they're flush with that.
I wouldn't want to move them, make it worse.
You know, so I don't know what is going to happen when the foundation is removed. There's going to be a void there.
Yeah.
And whether that gets filled with something so that it remains level. I mean, if anything gets put in that area, would rather see it be something compatible, more of a rounded rock or something like that. If it's not filled in, there'll be a hole and the material on either side will slide in. Maybe they're not going to want to have material there while they drive piles and stuff. They're going to have to come up with some sort of way to do all of that.
Yeah, I think the intent was, Mr. Snow, if you saw the house to the left as you're facing the ocean has been recently lifted, and underneath that, there is crushed stone. And
Okay.
Frankly, no pun intended, we were we were modeling what we have in mind on the houses to the left, which are both recently lifted and both have concrete piers with crushed stone underneath them.
And I think that works fine.
Can I ask?
Were you proposing concrete piers or driven piles on this one?
Concrete piers, because Rick told me honest on this. My understanding is that the soil composition doesn't support pilings.
Okay. All right. Penny?
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm just wondering how deep is the cellar that the house is sitting on now? What distance are we talking here when you take that away?
4 feet.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, it's about 3 feet in the ground right now. The garage
3 feet in
slab.
the ground?
Yeah, the garage doors in the front are the lowest level of the house. Elevation 14, and up in the back, as you say, Frank, it's higher above those retaining walls. You're about, call it 16 and a half or so. So 2.5, 3 feet to be safe. How deep it's in the ground.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking is how much, gravel or crushed stone you're gonna bring in, how deep it will be. That's all. I didn't know if it was an 8-foot cellar or what. Okay.
The only thing I might suggest, and you can work your way through this, is you might think about maybe a larger stone or something, just so it doesn't get washed away. And that's something you can work out with the engineer, but just regular 1.5-inch crushed stone.
Yeah, you want like a 6-inch minus type of, almost like a small riprap there.
I would think that would be better, even if it got infilled with smaller stones, so they could walk around it easily. But I think if it's just 1.5 inches, it's
your standard landscaping stone is just going to wash out of there.
Over the road.
Okay.
And Dean, are you open to Frank had mentioned, there's obviously concerns about those retaining walls in the front. And I know you and I talked about leaving them in the state they are, restoring them to the way they are, but possibly connecting those once the house is elevated, with maybe some larger stone or some connection, whether it's poured concrete wall or at least some sort of face stone, large stones to keep that grade up, and then leave that whole area where the house is coming out of at that 16 elevation.
Yeah, so I wasn't exactly tracking what Mr. Snow was talking about the retaining wall. It almost sounded like he was talking about creating a fence, if you will, from the right to the left, from where it says on this diagram stone RTW to the moving left to conc.ret, and putting a wall there. And again, this is my first rodeo at this, so you all are much more experienced than I, but my thought would be that the water comes flying in underneath the house and it's gonna shoot left and right when it hits that barrier, if you like, and that's gonna make things worse for my neighbors, not better, at least on the left and right. And then the other issue that I had is that the intent was the way the piers are designed is that we're losing a garage. And the intent here is so that we could put one car underneath it. And if there's a left to right wall there, then that would preclude us putting a car underneath the house. We could certainly put a barrier in further back towards the ocean side, but we would like to, if at all possible, be able to put a car underneath.
Okay. Well, I think as long as you, I don't want to let the rest of the members get in on this, but when you remove this foundation, it's going to create a void. And then, certainly they're going to have to do some excavating to get the piers in and all that sort of stuff. So they're going to generate a little bit material, which can fill up some of the area that's removed.
No question.
And, if you're trying to hold back an area that you can keep a couple of your cars underneath that, we've sort of allowed that. But my concern is that without something to hold that back,
I see.
everything's going to sort of, when we get some really severe storms, the water coming over is going to want to draw all that material, which was pointed out by some of the neighbors. It's going to want to pull all that material in and shoot it right out the front of the house. I'm sure this is encouraging to you, thinking about that, but haven't seen enough of these storms. So just thinking out loud how you might be able to, some of it's going to happen anyways, because all that cobble is now up to the top of those retaining walls. But just offering some thought there so that you can keep an area under the house that will work for you. Amy, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think you could fill in that void, and if that's what, I think keeping that wall intact would be a good idea.
Yeah. I think what the applicant was saying though is he's got those two walls. If they stay there, what I think they'd actually like to do is be able to hold back material a little further under the house as opposed to at that line.
So they can park car under there.
Exactly right.
All right.
So currently right now, if I could just add something to it, between the wall and what would be the deck there, Dean, it's about 15 feet. If let's say we were to connect those, you'd have about 15-foot area underneath, the house and the deck, where that retaining wall is today. So maybe not, you're gonna fit a limousine under there, but if it were to be connected, you'd have about that kind of space.
Seems reasonable. I mean, we're not trying to replicate a garage here. We're just trying to more for rain than sort of a protection from a hurricane kind of thing.
You're not going to want to leave your car there if there's a real bad storm.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
On high ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a good point, and I think that was Rick. You were saying that, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well, we can think about how to word that. So, Richard, do you want to comment?
No, I have no issue with what's already been said at all. I don't even have any questions.
Doug?
Well, just to clarify from all that, so that they're going to erect a wall that goes from left to right, but push it back farther towards the seawall?
Yeah, I think we could condition something like that if it went back another 10 feet or 15 feet.
But wouldn't you also need support walls from front to back
on the sides as well? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're essentially allowing construction of walls.
Well, the question is
already a wall there
that I said to Amy is that something that would be more we also have to think about state regulations and whatnot. If that was held back with stone as opposed to, large stone as opposed to a poured wall.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the structural engineer would feel about that sort of thing being built around the concrete piers.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's my only thought is our, you know, because we wouldn't have a garage go in or something like that, and yeah, it might. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not putting some sort of precedent in place
Right.
that backfires. And so yeah, that's what I was like. If they were rocks, I don't know. Do we have any sort of precedence for that? Have we done? So you said like we've allowed something like this before. Do we have something we kind of rely on?
We had a couple of places where, you know, in the case that where the foundation was there, they had like a patio or fill or whatever between the house and the ocean that was relatively high, and then the house itself held back, the house foundation held back a good amount of material, and in removing that, we allowed some portion to remain to hold some of that back.
Yeah, this reminds me of like North Hummerock, where those stone patios are between the revetment. You know what I'm saying? And we allow those to continue to remain. And that's Frank, when we were talking about these walls, that's where I was like, I can see that would be how you would justify leaving these walls, is to support the neighbors on either side.
Right.
Yeah.
Is, you know,
okay.
so
Yeah.
just because you've got this developed area with these walls are allowing these neighbors to exist with this development to, you know, in this elevation to happen.
Gotcha.
But that's different than saying moving this wall altogether. That's a totally different conversation. But keeping this wall where it is and allowing like the void area to be filled in some manner. I mean, I can see conditioning that. And as far as precedent, I don't think we need, I mean, we don't need to worry about precedent, and I'm not aware of a precedent on this.
Okay. Okay, because yeah, I mean, there is a concrete wall back there that's going to be demolished. So I mean, we're connecting the two for structural reasons, and you got to do something to support the dirt. I mean,
right.
The applicant's right about, you know, like that, you know, the water hits that wall and yeah, it's not an easy solution here.
No.
All right. Okay. I follow. So I, you know, just.
Okay. And good. Yeah. And then the other part is, what do we do about what can we condition into the front of the house with a patio?
When you say front, Frank, are you talking?
Well, I say the ocean side. So there's
ocean side.
Concrete.
Well, it says the patio is going to be demolished.
I understand that.
Okay.
But
you think some of it should remain?
Well, either it remains or they come up with something else to dissipate some of that wave so that they just don't have what can we, I mean, they may want to come up with something that I guess we could consider. So they could remove the patio for now, but they may want to consider some alternatives just in how they deal with that. But you don't want to be putting a lot of, you know, hopefully the town's going to circle back to this section of seawall, which is in pretty bad shape.
Well, would he want to just leave that patio?
It's a tough one. In most cases, we'd say take it out.
I understand, but would he object to leaving it?
No, we are entirely indifferent to it. So we will be happy to take it out or we'd be happy to leave it. Either way is fine with us.
All right, well, something that can, let's go through the members and get some additional thoughts. Andy?
No, I mean, that was a good summary. The unanswered question was that patio. So I guess I'd be interested to what gets proposed there, but that's my last big lingering question.
Okay. And we don't have Brendan. So I guess that's it.
Well, honestly, Frank, if I can.
Oh, Richard.
No, you asked me, but I just think you're probably better off leaving it because I just think you're opening up a whole new set of issues if you take it out. And well, that's what I think.
I think on this site, it's kind of tricky.
Right.
And I think at some point when they do something with the seawall, it's going to get removed anyways.
At some point.
But at that point, it'll be a different scenario because there'll be a higher wall there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it looks in tough shape already. And am I correct in looking at this on both sides of it is already stone? It looks like every other house has a patio and then in between is large rocks. Well, not large, but you know what I mean? Big.
Right.
Stones.
They're cobble. Yep.
Cobble. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't know what difference it makes.
I mean, maybe we don't want it to stay there. I'm just throwing it out there. And I mean, part of it may come down only because they got to rip some of it out with the work on the foundation and whatnot anyways.
Well, could we leave it open? Either or?
I'd see what Amy thinks.
I don't think you can do that.
I agree with Rich. The patio should stay as is. And then they can come back if they want to change it. If they have a bright idea. I mean, yeah, they may decide on some, fancy idea, or the town may come back and, the wall that could be part of the project scope work area. So it could be, part of it change anyways. So I think it should probably just stay as is.
All right. Well,
anyways,
maybe we can leave that as an opening in the orders. If they decide to remove it, that's their choice. Because they're going to have to remove at least a piece of it. Okay. We'll think about that when we do the orders.
Okay. And Frank, with respect to comments from abutters on this, we took a lot of comments at the last meeting. So we have already heard like a lot of everything. We don't need to repeat what the concerns are. So if you can just make sure that people know that we don't need to repeat everything that we heard last meeting.
For sure. Thanks.
And we'll keep the comments to a minute or less.
Yep. Thanks, Amy. So I think if you were on at the last meeting, you've heard the concerns about material washing through and whatnot. The commission has already gotten all that information and concerns. So if there's additional information or new concerns, that's what we'd like to hear from. So if you want to open this up, but if it's repetitive, quite honestly, we're going to just cut it off because we've got other hearings tonight. So.
Okay, with that, I'll put on Eric. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks, Frank and Penny. So we appreciate you addressing the issues that we discussed during the last meeting. I want to just maybe supplement comments on the patio. I think our concern with the patio is, as Frank pointed out, the wall is already pretty significantly degraded. So if the patio is removed, what effect is that going to have on the wall post removal, and maybe in conjunction with that, combine that with the effect of actually pile driving, stirring up the contents of the area really adjacent to what is already a crumbling wall. So I wanted to just make that supplemental point, but otherwise you folks are honing in on the issues that we had hoped you would. So I appreciate that.
Okay, and just to be clear, there's some of that wall is going to have to be removed for them to do the work, because they've got to dig. When they tear out that foundation, they've either got to cut that thing or shape it back. But then to get in the piers, that whole piece won't stay. As soon as they start to dig around that, it's going to undermine it. So whether a portion of it can remain or whatever, I think that's something they'll have to work through when they get to that point.
Yeah, and I obviously don't have any answers, Frank. I just want to flag the concern. So
yep. No, I mean, I appreciate these photos, and I looked at it as well, and the seawall's horrible. So let's hope that you guys as a neighborhood can do what you can to encourage a change there, but that's not.
So I appreciate it. I yield back, as the saying goes. I don't want to take anyone else's time.
Thank you.
Someone else has questions. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next. Who do we have next to let in?
It's Ann Sheehan.
Just if you could just state your name and address.
She's muted right now. There we go.
How's that?
Yep, we got you.
Hi, Mike Manor and my wife Ann Sheehan were at 47 Oceanside. I think Eric kind of cleared a few things up on some of the questions that we had. I'm sorry we missed the last meeting, but as far as the seawall goes, is there a plan in place to inspect it in any way? I guess the main concern is that the disturbance when working around it, what kind of equipment is going to be back there? Are there any restrictions on the equipment? Is it going to be, a jackhammer attachment to a backhoe or an excavator? I think the vibration and whatnot, if you look at the outside of that wall, you can see that how deteriorated it is. And I also believe that, the next door neighbors, the Garlands last year, they had extensive damage on it. So it's very fragile.
So I think that part of doing the work there, the contractors and the owners are going to be responsible for their work that goes on there. Undoubtedly, in breaking up some of that concrete, they're going to need some sort of equipment. Most of that breaks up. It's not like jackhammer and rock. Cement stuff will come apart relatively easy. And
but don't you feel like the vibration from the jackhammers and just the heavy equipment back there is going to cause some disturbance alongside that wall? And how deep will they be digging alongside of it as well?
Maybe the engineer can just tell us roughly the depth of the footings or the piers.
Okay. Is there any plan in place to possibly do like a scan on the wall to see the condition of the rebar to determine any type of life expectancy on it, or even what it may be able to withstand? I guess one of the concerns that I'm thinking about is that in a year down the line, or when we have another winter like 2015 and we get these back-to-back storms, if this thing is compromised at all, how much have we shortened up the life expectancy of it without even knowing?
I don't know if anybody can give you that answer.
But given looking at the seawall, just a visual inspection and seeing how bad it actually is in the problems that we've had with it over even the last year, you could see, as far as you can see vertically, cracks, wide open.
There's a reason why they wanted to do it over.
Right. I mean, we know we can go back to ancient history and start talking about why it's not done, but unfortunately, the people that are abutting this project, wanted to have it replaced, and now they're kind of left with this mess, so to speak. And if something does happen to it, and we do get a storm, you know, it's not just the people on the ocean side. These storms affect people on the avenues as well, way up the avenues. You know, if you go up 10th, 3/4 of the way up the street, we've had houses flooded out because of, you know, the depressions and whatnot in the landscape.
Yeah.
So, you know, it affects everybody in the neighborhood. And I think one of the other issues that we're having right now too is that if we're going to increase the water flow and the debris coming through, we also have an issue with the drainage. They did a repair to the outflow pipe last year at the end of the pipe, but they put grates on it. So when they did that last summer, without having any type of storm, the end of the pipe was filled up about 2/3 of the way with rock, which slowed down the water flow. So in the middle of the winter, nobody's going out there to take these grates off to, you know, alleviate it. So I think we already have, you know, an increased drainage issue with and then add 2-3 feet of water on the street, which doesn't typically go down until low tide. You know, water and debris clogging the storm drains. So I don't know. I think it just needs to be well thought out as far as the debris, the water, and the seawall.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, kind of knowing what's going to be up there for equipment and, you know, coming up with a plan for the seawall as far as the construction around it and the condition of it is going to be pretty imperative.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have somebody else.
B. Garland.
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute her.
So Frank, I was the one who submitted the pictures of.
Can you just give us your name and address, please?
Bridget Garland, 52 Oceanside Drive.
Thank you, Bridget.
So I was the one who submitted the pictures of 50, 52, and 54 Oceanside. And unfortunately, nobody reached out to any of the neighbors when you guys did do the site visit, which probably would have helped, you know, again, with this meeting. But my concern on top of the seawall is while you were doing the site visit, you had to have noticed the difference in color with the seawall behind my house. And that seawall's already been destroyed. My back deck has already been destroyed. And that was all replaced by a contractor right after the storm, knowing that the next storm coming, we'd end up losing the whole back of the house. Nobody has discussed what they're going to do when they begin the work in that whole entire area between 52 and 54 Oceanside. That is just rock. There's no patio or anything like that. And when they begin digging and they begin taking that out, that is going to undermine the stairs that go to my back deck and my back deck all over again.
Well, the contractor that does that work, part of this is that they're going to have to come up with a way to hold back the material. And I think if you heard what we were saying when we started, was the concern that I had is that actually the loss of that material there could be detrimental to the neighbors on either side. And that's, these folks are between literally a rock and a hard place as well. The state has a mandate as to how these houses can be elevated. And in order to take advantage of cost savings and flood insurance or whatever, and to protect their home, their alternative is basically put it up on some fashion of piles.
Frank, can I say something?
No, you can wait a second. So So that's their alternative. They either have to leave the house alone and deal with that, or if they want to elevate their home, the state has already dictated how these will go. They can't just put additional height on those foundation walls. They're not allowed to do that. So we try to condition these projects within the parameters that's allowed, the same as someone building a house and going before the building inspector and having the right size beams or whatever. Those are the pieces that have to be looked at as well. In addition to that, they have to be sure that they don't cause any harm to the neighbors. So then they have to think about how do they protect that when they do this digging or earthwork, as not to undermine your home. And it's difficult because of the cobble, and they'll have to figure out how to hold that back in some fashion, either by using pieces of the foundation or shoring or whatever they think is necessary.
Frank,
but they can't allow harm to happen to your property when they do theirs.
Frank, hi, it's Gary Garland.
Yep.
So you're saying they'll be held accountable because when you see my back deck, all the stone fell down and it cracked like an eggshell, and I had to fix 2 layers back there. 2 years ago? So my concern is that all the stones are going to pull apart when he digs out, and they're going to pull away from our walkway. And
again, the contractor and the people that they're going to have to get a permit from the building inspector, and then they're going to have to look at the work and determine how they're best going to handle this so that they aren't disruptive to folks on either side.
And the retaining wall, you said we were going to talk about that. Are they going to cut that in half, or what are they going to do with the retaining wall between the houses?
I believe it sounds like they're going to leave the retaining walls on the left and right side. They have to obviously get it away from,
probably got a call
from their foundation. Okay. And then they're talking about creating something inside that so that they can push their car back in, but holding back some of that material.
Okay.
Now, Frank, I just have one more question. Have they considered maybe dropping riprap down to secure that wall for when they bring the heavy machinery and they start banging down the pilings?
I don't think these aren't driven pilings. These are poured concrete pilings. So they don't have that kind of vibration or pounding. This is going to get excavated and then poured and put back up. These are just like your neighbors. They're poured in place piers.
Okay. But I mean, the pictures that I submitted to you, all of the houses down a little bit further, the town dropped all that riprap down there and all those houses are up. And that wall is in a lot better shape than the wall between 48 and 54 and even 56 Oceanside Drive.
I understand your frustration with the town and the seawall and whatever. And, I think that's an issue between, the residents along there and DPW, Board of Selectmen or whatever. We're trying to figure out how these folks can get, be able to elevate their home in accordance with the requirements for that location.
And I understand that, but I also have to be concerned with my house.
Mm-hmm.
I understand everybody, has the right to do what they want to their property. But you look at that seawall and you look at those concrete patios and you look at the stones in between, and my house is the house that's going to take the brunt of it. I mean, I've lived there as long as I have. I don't want to go up. I like my house the way that it is, but I also don't want to take the brunt of, unfortunately, somebody who's lived there for 4 months, and everybody's concerned with this house going up and doesn't seem very concerned about anybody else around them.
I don't know that that's a fair statement. I think we've just discussed quite a bit of this tonight.
I know, but we were also told by Amy, we had a minute to discuss the issues that we have.
I think everybody's had a chance to vocalize their concerns, and when we condition this project, we will try to add as much into the orders of conditions that address these concerns or what can realistically be done there. And again, it's up to the owners. They don't want to have the seawall collapse either. I mean, let's face it.
I don't want to have my deck collapse again either. And that's what's going to be compromised. If, again, Frank, when you were out there, my back deck looks like a puzzle because it was destroyed during a storm and the town did nothing about it. I fixed it. Myself and my husband, out of pocket, fixed it. And this work is going to compromise that deck unless there is a built-in wall or something done in between those two houses. The minute they start tearing that out, everything is going to fall out. In the first storm that comes, my back deck is going to go again.
I have a feeling that whoever does this work is going to have to be thoughtful as to when they do the work to avoid a storm there. And I understand your frustration with some of this, but ultimately they're going to have to figure out what to do with the wall. In the meantime, if folks want to elevate their home, we're not going to deter them from doing that. As long as they can find a safe way to do that work, that's the allowable choice that they have.
I mean, but really not at the expense of neighbors around them. I mean, you've seen what it's like down there.
Again, when we do these orders, they're going to have pieces in there that we're going to be saying what they have to do and not have to do with that. They also have liability and concerns that any work that their contractor does or whatever, and that's part of the building department to review that and see that they are careful not to impact a neighbor.
And what are the neighbors, what's our fallback when they do? What's the fallback?
Then you contact you have to talk to the building department. And
that got me really far, Frank, the last time when I lost my wall and I lost my back deck. That got me nowhere.
Well, I think you know where the situation is with the seawall. So,
and I wanted the seawall. And
I realize,
right,
okay, but
and the neighbor further down who doesn't even live here year round didn't. So 99% of us wanted the seawall.
Okay, but we're trying to get to other hearings tonight, and I know there's a frustration about the seawall. This isn't the place to do that.
Not ours.
Okay, I get it. I understand your frustration. I can see the wall. But right now, what we're having a hearing on is whether how can they elevate their home if they choose to do that?
In our concern is they're elevating their home on basically something that's as thin as toothpicks. And,
okay.
and that wall just, my concern is the wall just can't handle it.
Okay. I appreciate your concern as well. Anybody else?
Oh, come on.
We have, we have Mike on again. And actually, no, we're going to go to Jen. Jen
okay.
on line 2. Hold on.
Yes.
All right.
Well, my
Jen.
name is Frank Donahue. I live at 51 Oceanside. And I'm just wondering, how are we going to be kept like abreast of what's going on? It's like, if you have all these conditions, like, how do we know what's happening?
We'll close this hearing. The commission will review all the comments, the plans, things from the applicant, and then we'll try to put together an order of conditions that we think are appropriate for this site. Once those orders of conditions are done, they're public information and they can be appealed.
And where can we access that?
At the town hall.
Yeah, so you want to keep your eye out for, if they close at this hearing, which I think that they probably will, at the next meeting, they'll probably vote on the orders, and then the orders will issue. And once the orders issue, there's a 10-day appeal window, and at which time the orders can be appealed to the state.
Either by the applicant or by anyone else that doesn't like that.
Yeah, which is just, you can write to the state and have the state take a look at the case. So have another set of eyes on the notice if you don't like the findings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
This is Mr. Sheehan, who's already spoken once, but he's got another comment. So hold on, please.
Yep.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Got it.
Yeah, okay. Real quick, if I'm understanding this correctly, a permit's going to be issued and then a scope of work is going to be determined after that, correct?
So after this hearing, if we close this hearing, the commission has a set of orders and conditions, and they're multiple pages with different requirements for the applicant and what we deem appropriate to be allowed on this site. Then once they have that set of orders, the applicant has to go to the town of Scituate's building department or their contractor and get a building permit to do this work. And the building inspector will review it as well.
I understand that.
But there's no public hearing for that. That's something that goes to the building department.
Okay, but you made a comment to Bridget that once the contractor is chosen and then, you know, her concerns would be basically up to him. It seems to me that this is sort of backwards. The scope of work should be determined, should be laid out, you know, both on a set of plans and in writing.
It is.
And then that should be reviewed, and then the permit should be issued, and everyone should be allowed to see that.
There'll be an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission that are available to the public. If anyone looks at that, either the applicant or the abutters or anyone, and they determine that those order of conditions are incorrect, they can be appealed to DEP.
Is that before or after the permit's issued?
Way before. So within 10 days of when we issue a set of orders, if anyone feels that
it's before the building permit, but it's the appeal of the order of conditions, which is actually the conservation permit. So the order of conditions is our permit, but it's not different than the building permit, which is the permit to build the new home and to elevate the house. Follow?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll
So this project will be on the
10-day
next agenda as well. And at that agenda, the orders will be voted to issue, assuming they close tonight. And from there,
the documents will be made available prior to issuing a permit.
Yep, and they'll be made official, they'll be signed, they'll be sent out. And then there's a 10-day window, which is called the appeal window, at which time any party who's basically aggrieved by the orders, can appeal the orders to the state. So that means that you can send a letter down to the Department of Environmental Protection down in Lakeville and ask them if they can take a look at the notice of intent and make a determination on the case.
Okay.
It can also be appealed at the state level to under the local bylaw as well. And that time frame is a different time frame, but yeah, I can tell you more about it if you want to reach out to me.
Okay. I don't think anybody is trying to stop somebody from making an improvement to their home and make it safer and everything else, but when you need to realize what we go through down here with these storms, and they can be very devastating. There's a lot of damage, there's a lot that goes on, and making alterations.
There's a lot of history in what we have seen with our neighbors.
Sure.
History and knowledge is everything. And so I would encourage our new neighbors and friends to reach out to some of your neighbors whose concern is not just for ourselves, for you as well, sir.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot going on, and we just want to make sure that everybody is going to be safe, and it's not going to make anything any worse than it already is. Because there have been things that have been done down here that have made it worse. And there are things that have not been done that should have been done that, again, we can go back and argue ancient history, but yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I got
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
I make a motion.
Penny, just, does the applicant or their engineer want to make any additional comments? I hope they understand where we're coming from here. There's Scott.
Yeah, so this is Dean speaking. Again, let me address a couple of things. So number one, we care deeply about the relationship with our neighbors. Our intent is not to flip this house. Our intent is to live here and to enjoy the ocean front. This has been my wife's and my dream to be able to have this house, and we're simply trying to protect it. So that's one. Second thing, hear you on the seawall. We are very big proponents of it being repaired, and you can count on our vocal support to try and get it repaired. And three, yeah, there's a ton that we don't know, and we've tried to retain subject matter experts that are very familiar with this. Many of you know River Moore, Stembeck and Taylor, Heidi Condon, all folks that have worked in Scituate for 20 plus years and really do know the area. And what I've tried to say throughout here is we will defer to the expertise of the Conservation Commission in guiding us on making good decisions. We are not trying to do anything other than put our house that we dearly love, even though we've only lived there for a very short period of time, out of harm's way. And that's all there is to it. And I'm grateful for all of folks' comments, and we are going to do our level best to take your counsel, your wise counsel, and incorporate it into what we do. So thank you very much.
Appreciate the comments, and I think you'll do well to see how things work down there a little bit. And we also appreciate the predicament folks are in between the conflicting regulations and whatnot. That's why we try to do what we do. Good luck with this. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to call out to the commission or members. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Penny?
I make a motion to close.
A motion from Penny. Do I have a second? Somebody wants to keep this going?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
I think Andy said that first. All in favor, Doug?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yep.
And Frank, yes. Okay. Thank you. 29 Oceanside.
Ocean Drive.
Ocean Drive. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah.
Different.
Let's see. On December 19th, 2022, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Beverly. Yeah.
Bangbeck.
Thank you. For work related to a septic repair at a single family dwelling at location at 29 Ocean Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. Thanks, Richard.
You betcha.
Okay.
Hi, we have Scott Fanara from Grady on the call.
Hey,
Hi
Scott.
there. For the record, Scott Fanara with Grady Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant. Submitted a notice of intent here just to replace a failed septic system. The property is located in Hummerock. So as being such, it's, you know, in a barrier beach, coastal dune, flood zone. What we're proposing to do is to pump and remove that existing cesspool, just the open pit that's currently serving the property, and replace it with a new Title V compliant septic system, the 1,500 gallon septic tank, and then the standard infiltrator chambers. Yeah, I'll keep it short and answer any questions you have.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty straightforward, although there is no DEP number assigned to the case, and I also do not think that there's Board of Health approval for this one either at this point. So I don't think we can close tonight.
Scott, do you have any info on that? Have you?
Yeah, I did check earlier and saw that the DEP has not issued a number. So I guess would be requesting a conditional approval for this tonight.
Okay. Well, let's go through the members, see if there's any concerns, and then we can decide best course of action. Doug.
I don't have any questions. Looks pretty straightforward.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm okay with this one. No questions.
And Richard?
Big improvement, no questions.
Okay, and anybody in the audience? Thank goodness.
You want to hear from me?
I thought you were the first one to chime in.
Oh, Doug was. But I'm all set with it. Good project.
Maybe I just heard enough from you on the last one.
I think probably so.
So, and nobody in the audience on this one. So, Amy, you don't think we can close this, huh?
Well, I mean, we could close, but it's kind of a little bit risky, you know, like close pending. We've done that before.
Yeah.
I did reach out to the state, to a couple people at the state actually, and no response. So, you know, I think the holiday weeks are tough weeks to get answers sometimes. So, I don't know, but by January 9th, I'd say that there should be a number. So, I mean, we could take a chance, close it pending the number and no comments. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Are you asking for any variances, Scott?
No, we're not.
Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty straightforward then. I mean, it's a tiny site, right? So,
It is.
and it's going to be an improvement over that which is there. So, field system.
I'm going to take this just on the timing and suggest that we go ahead and close it.
I will make a motion to close pending DEP and BOH.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, worst case, we just extend it and throw it on another agenda, you know?
Okay. So I got a motion from Richard. It sounds like I got a second from Penny there.
Yeah, you did.
All in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Andy?
Did we check for any comments from
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Sorry. Then yes, I'm on board.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Have a good holiday.
So now,
EPAs.
181 Edward Foster Road. On December 19th, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Tim and Laura White for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw for activities related to an addition and patio, a single-family dwelling at location 181 Edward Foster Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posts on the town website. Good evening.
Good evening.
Tim White's on the call.
Hey, Tim.
Good evening, Frank. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Tim.
So the goal here is primarily a renovation of the kitchen and the entrance to the house. As you can see, the two areas are addition. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but It's 10 square feet on the front of the house on an area that's actually existing hard surface at the moment. And then, so that's 100 square feet there. And I'm taking out a little jog in the back wall to square off the rear kitchen. And that's 44 square feet. So the total additional space to the house is 144 square feet. The plans have been approved by the Scituate Fire Department and the building department. Cost of the renovation is significantly less than 50% of the assessed value of the building. So it doesn't require bringing up to current flood codes. Then there is a request to do a small patio here in the back in the lee of the house to facilitate grilling in the wintertime and the spring and fall when the windward side of the house is inappropriate to use.
Okay. Okay, Amy.
Well, we discussed this at the last hearing, and we gave Mr. White the kind of the direction to go in this direction for this portion of the project. So seeing that you let him down this trail, I'm going to say that this is consistent with the negative finding. I mean, it is a pretty insignificant amount of work area wise. So with the bigger project still looming and the notice of intent still on the table for January. So this would just get this portion of the project going.
Sure. Okay. Andy?
No questions at the moment.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, well, we did lead him down this path, and I don't have any questions about this. This is fine.
Okay, Doug?
Feel like wasn't here in the last meeting, maybe, to help lead anybody down a path. But
I think that's a little extreme. We had a discussion about that.
Okay. Well, anyways, now there's no site plan, so I'm just wondering, why is he in front of us? Is this in a flood zone? Is it? Why is this?
The home is in the flood zone.
Okay.
And we have a site plan under a separate NOI to do some site improvements to manage the rainwater on the site.
Okay.
There's not enough area here to require a stormwater management plan, hard surface.
Right.
So the goal was primarily, because this is mostly an interior renovation, to release the building permit so we can order windows and get going on the job. There is nothing, in my opinion, if the site plan was to be deemed inappropriate, there's nothing in this work that would require the site work to be done.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Penny?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what's the surface of the patio, Mr. White?
I really haven't determined it yet. The overall goal would be to do some sort of a stone set in a asphalt emulsion, and that would be determined on being able to put the drain in the middle of the patio that's tied into the recharge system as part of the site work.
Okay.
If we didn't do the recharge system, then I would do this on stone dust with gaps between the stone to make it permeable. But ultimately, frankly, I would prefer, long goal, to be able to tie it into the recharge system.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody in the audience for this? So the request.
Nobody.
Okay, so the request tonight is it's for a slight addition at the front of the house and a slight addition at the rear. Am I correct?
In the
Correct.
patio.
Yeah.
And the patio?
Yes.
But the patio is going to sort of be contingent on, I suppose then you could just build it, whatever, but it's how you're going to tie in that drainage. So do we have any information on the patio if you don't tie it into the,
He
So
said,
if I wasn't able to tie it into the patio, Frank, I would do it in large format stones on stone dust, so it would drain into the soil as a non-hard surface, permeable surface.
so Amy, can we write that into those, in that decision?
We can write a limited amount of information into a decision. Just tell me what you want written.
Well,
in.
I think just what Mr. White said, that we're going to allow for that petition on the front and back. And then as far as the patio is concerned, it's either A, going to be tied into the larger plan, or B,
Permeable.
it's going to meet permeable standards.
I can make this easier for the commission.
Okay.
It really wasn't our intention for the patio to be included in the RDA, but it got into the writing. So, and it is on the drawings, but that's because it's the whole architectural package. Our original intent really was to submit the RDA for the building only. So
okay.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm happy to defer the patio to the larger NOI conversation.
Okay.
I think that would be better.
Okay.
We're totally fine with that.
Great. Super.
The goal.
So we're only talking about the 100 square foot addition.
144. Yeah.
144.
144.
Okay.
Okay. Can I make a motion?
Do we have any? We don't have anybody else, right?
Nope.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
I make a motion for -3.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Doug, all in favor? Richard?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Guys.
Yep. 8 Blueberry Lane. On December 19th, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Lester Gammon for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to septic repair on a single-family dwelling located at 8 Blueberry Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. And we have someone from Morse Engineering.
Greg Morse.
Can we let him in?
Come on, Greg.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Greg.
Good evening. This is Greg Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant Lester Gammon. This is a request for determination of applicability for a septic system upgrade project located at 8 Blueberry Lane. The property is the black line in bold. It's approximately ½ acre in size. On the right-hand side of the screen, highlighted in blue, is the limit of a bordering vegetated wetland that was delineated by John Zimmer during September of this year. There's an existing home at the property. You see it kind of central on the lot. It's a 3-bedroom home. It has a failed cesspool located in the backyard. The proposal here is to construct a new septic system in the backyard. Consists of a new 1,500-gallon septic tank, a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and then a Presby EnviroSeptic leaching field. Also on this plan, you see in red, the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. You'll notice that all of the work is outside of the 50. We have an erosion control barrier at the down gradient limit of work. It is not possible to construct the system outside of the 100 on this site. This meets the requirements for a negative determination per the Title V presumption contained within the regulations. I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Amy? I think you're muted, Amy.
I know, hold on, sorry.
Got you.
I'm like looking at the map, trying to find my unmute button, sorry. You know what I find very interesting about this one is that it's an original owner, 1956. You don't come across that very often in this town, to tell you the truth. So, wow. I don't have a lot to comment other than, I mean, the fact that septic system replacements are usually a good sign. Just, you know, you don't want a failed system. And usually we do note in an RDA that we don't confirm the resource areas. If this was going to become a tear down sometime in the future, we would maybe want to scrutinize the line at some point. But other than that, I think agree it meets the requirements of a negative finding.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Richard?
I really don't have any comment. I think it's, and I always go with Amy on that one. A cesspool with a septic is a good thing.
Okay. Douglas?
No questions at all. That's a long life out of that cesspool. That's amazing. So,
Penny?
No, all good.
Andy?
Looks good to me.
And I'm good with it as well. So I'll take a motion.
Make a motion for a -3.
Richard, do I have a second?
Second.
Penny got that one. All in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Have a good
one, Greg.
Thanks.
Okay. Wow. On to liaisons report. Penny, what are you going to tell us in 2 minutes or less?
All good.
That's good. Done.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I put it in an app for the driveway and stuff, and I'll be coming before Concom this winter if it gets if the board approves it, which I expect at the next meeting they will. And I'll come in for an RDA on just widening the driveway and putting a parking area at Mordecai Lincoln so we can use it next year. Other than that, things are interesting at CPC. Lots of playgrounds people want, that schools want CPC to pay for. I don't think that's going to happen though.
Well, you know that at least from my opinion, we'd like to see as much go to open space and that sort of thing. But there is, you know, there are a bunch of entities that all look for CPC money, and we're a whole town. But
yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, because we are limited, CPC, people seem to think there's millions and millions there. Well, there isn't, you know, and we only get a couple of million a year. And let's face it, in this economy, it doesn't go far. It doesn't go far at all. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you know. We're going to start approving projects at the next meeting, January and February's meeting. So it'll be interesting because we had 11 projects come forward this year.
Wow.
We don't have funds for all of them. So
right.
We'll see where it goes.
Okay. Amy, you want to explain the bond reduction at 780?
Okay, sure. Did I manage to hit send on the email?
I don't know. I'm looking at a screensaver right now.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. Does everybody remember? I think everybody was on the board when this project came through.
Yep.
It's that driveway set back down by the Norwell line, like near Laurelwood, Jerry Dwight's old property. Penny, I know you remember this one.
Oh yeah, no.
Anyways, and so the owner.
I didn't touch it.
The owner
Sorry,
of the property.
Jen just straightened out my computer.
Planted out the, you know, the replication area and would like to get some of the $20,000 that we're holding which is worded in that one minor modification document. It's pretty clear, actually, that I mean, I think I think you could probably release maybe a little bit of it. I'm not so sure you want to release it all. I asked him for, actually, it looks like Andrew's on the call if you want to ask him any questions, but the owner of the property. But if I asked him, like, you know, to gauge the cost, kind of like what we did for CJC, so you could get an idea if they all did die, you know, if you were left to have to replace them, so that you know how much that you would need to keep. And then just some other points is just as far as, like, at this stage in the game, I haven't seen an interim as-built or the request for C. I haven't seen anything come through on the stormwater management, that you know, pictures of the dry wells or the anything relating to the stormwater management. And the replication was for 5 years on this one. But we did get reports from the wetland scientist on this. So when they were planted, and then just in this fall, we did get a report from him. So we know that they're in, so that's good.
Okay, so
I was thinking maybe reducing it by like 5,000 was what I was going to say.
what's the bond now?
20,000.
Oh.
So you think that they've got 25%, only 25% done, or?
Well, I think that, I mean, the thing is the plants are in according to South River Environmental. It's just whether or not they're going to survive, you know. And if you look at the wording in the letter.
Did you say the other work is done, the retaining stuff?
I don't know. I haven't received any information on the stormwater management, which would come in with the C. It would be nice to get an update on where that stands. You know, it seems like so many of these orders, because I mean, there is a stormwater permit that requires a certificate of compliance and requires annual stormwater management reporting on this property. You know, it's part of the deed of the property, and we've seen nothing. But the certificate of occupancy did just go in this fall, though. So, you know, so it is a new home.
Right. Does the applicant want to comment, or is he?
He's on the call, but he does not have his hand up. Nope, now he does.
Now he does.
Andrew, can we unmute him?
He's unmuted.
If you want to have any comment.
Hi, board. Am I live?
Yep.
Sorry, everyone there. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Good evening.
Amy, thank you for all your help. So yeah, to follow up with this whole thing, yeah, we've had John Zimmer out for monitoring reports since we have started this project. I know it's been kind of a long haul getting this project going and getting it moving. You know, we do have a partial as-built. As you can see with the order conditions, it does say there'll be no partial order conditions given out for this until at least 2 years. So I guess we weren't even looking for a partial certificate of compliance because the order condition said we won't get one for at least 2 years. So I guess there might be a little confusion on that with us and Amy. So as per the stormwater, I know there's a few infiltrators. We can certainly get you pictures of that. I know that would be on the final as-built that Morse would submit to you when we are there for a final as-built. You know, we've done most of the grading. We do have, you know, everything's graded, the driveway's in, everything is in accordance to the stormwater permit, and all the grading Amy is referring to a dry well in the front of the house, but there's also two other ones. There's two visible ones that are visible right in front of the house with almost a retention pond kind of idea that carries the water from the driveway into a more almost like an infiltrated retention pond, and then there's some gutter downspouts that go into a dry well in the front of the house. So most of it is well, everything's in. Obviously we're in the monitoring period. We just got our order and our occupancy permit this fall, so we have most of the lawn all stabilized. Obviously the weather kind of turned. It was tough not being able to have any irrigation, obviously. So that's what kind of delayed, getting the lawn in this fall as well as getting these plants in. Because with all the water restrictions that the town had, we were kind of between a rock and a hard place with when to plant everything, including the lawn, to actually have any success. And to give you an idea, we this is my own personal house. I'm a home builder. We do our own excavation. So I know Amy and I were playing telephone tag there for a little bit. I was in her office a few times and we kept missing each other to try to get some clarification on what she wanted for some sort of cost. With that being said, we did buy all the plants from New England wetland plants up in South Hadley, Mass. The total for the plants themselves was $1,977. We added an extra 32 plants that we decided to plant is just kind of good measure. That was an extra $361 for a total of $2,300. And we can get that for you. We can get your receipts for all that. Obviously with all that, there's a lot of grading, a lot of site work that went into getting this. So the $20,000 bond, I totally understand. But now that even if the plants die, we're not going to regrade and bring in the different fills and shape this whole replication areas. So I was kind of really expecting a lot more than $5,000 back. With that being said, the order conditions does have either cash or surety bond, and to our surprise, back when this project started, the surety bond was rejected, and we were required to put cash up for this. Obviously a surety bond would have been a lot less expensive, and we do that a lot with work. So surety bond and the order condition was more than sufficient. That got rejected, so we did put up actual cash for this. So I was looking for more of a $15,000 to $17,000 reduction on this. If every plant died, that would be $1,900 in all new plants, and then about a day for, we think a day for one person to kind of replace all the plants, to give you a rough idea of what that would cost. We don't really expect a 100% loss on this. We're only striving for a 70% success, and we added about 32 extra plants just to help with this. So with that being said, I think the whole project came out nicely. We had John Zimmer out constantly and giving reports, monitoring reports on this project. I think we did a nice job keeping the site very clean. And with the conditions we had with last summer, we really just shut down when we had all that rain all last summer, just to not disturb where this wetland replication was. So we shut down for all last summer when we had that tremendous amount of rain, and then we got going back in the fall once we were able to kind of get into this project and not make a mess of it and be very conscious about the order of conditions, the wetlands, and everything else. So with that being said, we are just in the monitoring period for this. If there are any plans, that can be done. But the order conditions, I guess that was the only thing, Amy, is that I wasn't expecting to get an order of conditions or even submit anything for one until we have these 2 years of monitoring.
Right. So I missed part of that. I'm sorry. Are you done with all the detention areas and everything? That's all been completed?
Yeah, yes, they're all completed. They will obviously have to be cleaned up in the spring because just with when we got the lawn in, there was some runoff in certain areas still within the buffer zone. But like there's a kind of a leaching retention pond type, for sake of speaking, in the front yard, kind of right in the front of the house. And, there was some loam runoff that went in there, so it's not working correctly, but that, just has to be cleaned out now that we have a lawn stabilized all the way around it. That can easily be cleaned out. And we figured out just a nice spring project. Once all the snow melted, we can kind of get in there. And we kind of left it like that because I wanted more settling while the lawn was establishing. So, there is a slight, really just cleanup in the spring. And, once the lawn comes in better in the spring, but, we were kind of restricted with the water restrictions this fall. So, we didn't even hydroseed until late.
Yep. Got it. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Gallagher?
No.
So, I mean, I don't know. Can we kind of split the difference here? And Amy, what do you think? I mean, can we release 10?
That's what I think.
I think you guys should do whatever you want to do.
I don't think you'd think that, but we get this late enough. So Richard.
Yeah, and just as far as the request for CFC, so Andrew, I mean, I get it, you're not done yet, but you're close. But if the as-built is, I mean, it sounds like the as-bilt's not really ready, but if as soon as it is, I would get it in, and then we won't process it until the window is up and it's ready to be processed. But a lot of people, they'll, get that work done so that it doesn't become an oversight later on down the road, and then it never gets done. You know what I mean? And then we just have it on file and we can issue it. Or you can call the office and remind us to issue it when the time window's up.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah. So, but that's great news that you've got it all in and got it documented. So.
Okay.
Good.
Anybody else have a thought on the?
I agree with you, Frank, that I think splitting the difference, maybe 10,000 is appropriate. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. And
Thanks,
sounds like
Richard.
he really intends to finish.
Doug? Doug, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'd even be fine with more, but yeah, that's fine. I mean, but yeah, splitting the difference certainly seems like a reasonable thing.
Okay. Penny?
Well, I'd like to give him 15, but.
See, that's what you get for asking for this thing at Christmas. Andy?
Yeah, as long as we can ensure it. I mean, I guess I'm trying to look back at the history and wondering why we overshot so much, how they came in so much under budget from our expectation.
Well, they didn't really come in under budget. They had to do all the prep work and everything. But like Andy is saying, the only thing would be if the plants don't take, it would cost him a couple of $1,000 to replace them. He doesn't have to do the site work or the retention basins and this and that. That stuff, it's all there. It's just a matter of watching to make sure the plants take in the next 2 years. That's it.
Yeah. I guess we wrote it that we would give it back in 3 years. So I guess I was wondering how we got there when we only need 5. So if it's what we need, I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure the work gets done.
Yeah, the work has been done. It's just the monitoring.
Right.
Can I just, if we say we release 10 now, and then we get a plan that shows most of this complete, maybe we can look at it releasing another 5 and then hanging on to 5 until we know the plants are set or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That makes sense.
Okay. Do you need a vote on that?
Yes, please.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we returned 5,000 of the
10,000.
10,000 of the 20,000 bond at this point in time.
I'll second it.
From Richard, all in favor, Doug?
Sure.
Andy?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay. So if you can get that plan put together, Mr. Gallagher, and then we can look at reducing that further.
Awesome. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Orders at Buttonwood Lane and Pine Brook.
I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition for 8 Buttonwood and 9 Pine View as written.
That's Penny.
Second.
By
Doug.
Doug. I didn't quite get that with the yawn in the middle. Richard.
Yes, I'm good.
And Andy.
Yes.
And Frank's good. Okay. A certificate of compliance at 9 Pondview.
Yeah, so that was a septic. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, I was jumping right into Cottonwood. My mind is already a step ahead of me today for some reason. Anyways, 9 Pondview is a recent project. That was an addition that you guys these people are like how we want everybody to be, as a matter of fact. They're the clients that do the work and then actually get the CFC right after the project is done. And that's how we wish every project was. So we're good to get this one off the books. I think it was even maybe a 21 project or something like that.
What fun would we have if everybody was in total compliance?
No, I mean, no, because it as opposed to this is the next one is a 1999 project, which was a septic system. And it's just, you know, a lot of times people file and then it becomes like just something that, you know, you don't think about ever again until you have to.
Right.
And then it's an emergency. So,
okay.
but we deal with everything that makes it, you know, it makes it more interesting. Right.
So Pondview is a good one. And then
there's another one that just came up late last week and it's 6 Cottontail. So we're going to issue both of those and they're in the file ready for signature, as well as the motion for that property donation. There's a motion which is going to get recorded. We think it's also on the select board agenda for tomorrow night. They're also voting on that.
I will be over tomorrow.
And I don't think that anybody from conservation needs to be at that select board meeting. I mean, it's a pretty straight up donation from them. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe
from who?
Toll Brothers is on the Toll Brothers donation on Oceanside, that land. But it's also getting endorsed by the select board as well tomorrow night. So, but it's going to Conservation Commission.
Right.
Anyway, so this is a wrap on the year 2022, if you can believe it. Wow.
Can I add one thing before? I think 2023, we probably are going to have almost all our signs up for our parking and access areas. And
that's great.
A few other things. Warren Cowing is out there trying to get all this stuff installed this week. So
great.
If he has a little cooperation with the weather, we might get most of it done.
Until Friday.
Well, hopefully he hustles along.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he installing one at Conservation Park also?
Yep. Yes. Okay. Yep. There's one going up there, and there's one there's one at Ellis that
and these are the kiosks that we've been talking about for
all the ones that
years.
were made by the Votech School, and then the Scouts put a bunch of them. Well, a bunch of them have been up for quite a while, but then the signs, when they originally were made to be one-sided, and then we made them two, so they had to be modified. So he's modifying kiosks that are already installed, as well as installing a couple more. There's some no parking signs, there's entrance signs, there's some pressure treated plywood being bolted to some other things so we can put notices up. And there's a couple of miscellaneous signs on like the backside of the Bates Lane. And then there was a Bates Lane sign that is getting moved from where the Mount Hope is up to the Bates Lane parking area, which is really the center of all that property. So there's a whole bunch of things getting done.
That's great.
To make that part of.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So that's hopefully that's one for.
Did you tell Jen Foley that?
I did not. I did not. I was going to send her that as a Christmas thing.
That would be a Christmas present.
A couple of Christmas pictures or something.
There you go.
Amy, A quick
Has anybody
question.
received the Jen Foley Christmas card yet?
Yeah.
What? We
Well,
haven't.
well, I don't know if it was that or it was Janet and I dropped her off something. So maybe it was a thank you that we got with a picture of Eloise. But I had the opportunity to hold her about a month ago, which was kind of fun.
Yay.
But yeah, we wish her, hoping she'll be back as soon as she feels good about it. So that would be great. Amy, a quick question. I have driven in and out of Appleton a couple of times because we're finishing up some of those signage, and that road is just potholes up and down. It's being used a ton. I couldn't believe all the cars that were in there.
Really? Traffic jam?
There's a lot of people using these places. And then today we're at the Driftway Park, and that parking lot was 2/3 full in the middle of the early afternoon.
Yeah, open space is the hip thing to do. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I see it in Norwell when I drive the back way to Trader Joe's.
I was just
all those
surprised
lots
to
that used.
see so many cars on a Sunday. Warren and I went in on Sunday just to make sure that he was on board with all the things he was doing. And there was probably 6 or 8 vehicles at Appleton Field.
Yeah. So do you think we don't have enough space?
No, we're okay with that. But what I wanted to do, back when we got all that free material from the town when they were resurfacing, I was hoping to hang on to a load of that we could use for road repair. But
because you're saying there's potholes?
Big ones.
Yeah. Really? There's already potholes? Is that because of the plowing?
The use, people driving in and out when it's wet. It's a dirt road and it's getting a lot of traffic.
Are they closing it at night?
Nope.
So do we have complaints of people going down there at night?
I haven't seen any vandalism since one early in the game. Not hearing anything negative from the neighbors at Bates Lane or Higgins McAllister. So
no evidence of like fire pit activity or anything in the woods.
I haven't seen anything, and I haven't got any reports from our trails maintenance people. We had a tree land on the bridge, but it didn't do any damage.
Thankfully. That is the best bridge.
Yeah, so it's really been great, but I wanted to purchase a load of crushed. It's kind of a asphalt gravel mix. It's the same material that we used when we built the roads.
Yeah. And
then use it to fill in the different potholes and stuff. And I can get a couple of people to help me fill that in, but we're probably talking about $600 or $700 now for a 10-wheeler load of that material. Can we draw that from a conservation account?
I think we can, but I mean, talking about precedent, I think that's a bad precedent to start doing maintenance for those properties with that money.
Well, where do we get it from?
Well, I think that starts the conversation that we should be putting an article on town meeting for an annual maintenance article for those properties because you need it. I mean, that's what other towns do. Like say Norwell or whatever. It's like there's every year there's an article that looks for money to keep up on these properties that are getting all this use. And so that's the money that pays for it.
Is the article
you could maybe do that this once because we don't have it this year, but
right.
I mean, and because CPC won't pay for it. Like Penny says, they can't pay for everything and they don't pay for maintenance.
No.
Right.
So it's just, I mean, you're not talking big money, but you might be talking $10,000 or $15,000, but that's going to be to, maintain and whatever that especially if they're getting all of this use and you can document the use that they're getting. I mean,
I think Penny was trying to get a number out of Northern Oak and everybody's just been so busy. We never got that number.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we have
Andy might be able to speak better to this with his experience through the trustees, but I mean, open space comes with a price tag. I mean, how do you, you know, how do you pay for what is going on out there? Either that or you guys need to start raising money or whatever, have a fund, you know, some kind of a Scituate Trails fund where people start donating to upkeep what's, you know, their land. Because I'm sure people are gonna, I'm sure people after a while are gonna start to complain, right?
It's pretty
Don't go
bad.
down that road. You don't want to, you know, get your rear end all crazy, something like that. But
Like I say, I've got the equipment to patch it up. I just we need to buy or get a load of that material. So well, you and I can talk some more about that. Does anybody object to that if we were to purchase a load of gravel for right now? And I think Amy's point's well taken. We got to work at see if we can get the select persons to give us some annual money.
Yeah.
Anybody
I mean,
else?
because it's not a big ticket item, you know.
Then Andy's going to have a whole bunch of farmers in there next summer. So
yeah, fence is ready to go.
So
has there been interest, Andy?
In the garden?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had about 10 people for a couple of years. So once we get the fence up, then I can go back to advertising it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Keep the deer out.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be ready to go.
Okay, can we go home?
Yep.
I make a motion to close the meeting. To adjourn.
Okay. Second from Andy. All in favor, Richard?
I guess so.
Doug?
You guess so.
But so Penny, are you going to come in tomorrow though? Just run in and sign?
Sign what?
That there's just a couple pieces of paper. You don't have to come in the office.
I was up there last week and signed a ton.
No, this is new, Penny.
It's new stuff.
I
There's
don't
a
know.
couple of
I'll
new things.
Call the office and someone will bring them out to you. All right?
Yeah.
And they'll have 3 masks on.
I don't know if I'm leaving the house.
All right.
I'll be there.
See what you can do. All right.
Have a good holiday, everyone.
Yeah, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Yep. Take care.
Have a safe one. Fun one.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Hey, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.